Few people that have ever lived on Earth have been as powerful, influential, and famous as Alexander of Macedon. He ruled over an empire larger than any before him in history. He achieved things that seemed impossible to his predecessors, and he did it all by the age of 30. He was a ruler of Greece, pharaoh of Egypt, emperor of Persia, and king of all Asia. He was a lover of music, poetry, and philosophy, a genius military tactician, and a clever problem solver. He was a motivational leader who defied the odds, and even perhaps the greatest influencer of all time. In fact, he is known to history simply as Alexander the Great. Alexander grew up in Macedonia, which is in the northern part of modern Greece. His father, Philip II, was the king of Macedonia. Philip wanted to expand his rule beyond Macedonia to all of Greece and even Persia. He invaded Greece in 338 BCE. At that time, the Greek city-states had been fighting with each other for hundreds of years in the Peloponnesian Wars. They were all beat up and weak from the wars. Philip brought his son Alexander along with him as a military commander and soldier. They were successful and conquered and united Greece. But then, tragedy struck, when Philip was assassinated by one of his own bodyguards. Alexander assumed his father's throne to rule all of Greece at the age of 20 in 336 BCE. Even though he was quite young to be king, Alexander was very prepared to rule and lead an army. While growing up in Macedonia, Alexander had teachers that helped him study reading, writing, music, and philosophy. He was very curious and a great student. He learned from some of the wisest men in his time, including Aristotle. A warrior named Leonidas taught Alexander how to march, fight, and ride a horse. Once when he was a boy, Alexander was with his father Philip when a man tried to sell them a very expensive horse. The horse was very stubborn and wild. It wouldn't let anyone ride it. Philip wasn't interested in the horse, but Alexander really wanted it. His father told him that if he could tame it, he could have it for his own. Alexander was very observant and noticed that the horse would buck when it saw its shadow. He turned it away from the shadow towards the sun and was able to calm it. He named the horse Bucephalus and rode it into battle. Bucephalus became one of the most famous horses in history. Alexander even named a city after the horse. Alexander was very close to his mother, Olympias, when he was growing up. After his father Philip died, she encouraged him to continue the conquest and take his army to Persia. His army is often called the Hellenic Army. Alexander led his troops into Asia Minor, which is modern-day Turkey. And in the Battle of Gernicus, he defeated the Achaemenid Persians. He took the cities of Sardis and Ephesus. While Alexander was there, he came to a place called Gordium, which had a palace with something strange inside. Inside the palace was an ox cart tied to a post with a very large, complicated knot. Many tried to untie the knot unsuccessfully. It seemed impossible. An oracle had prophesied that anyone who could untie the knot would be destined to rule all of Asia, to the far rivers of the Oxus and the Indus. Alexander wanted to untie it and fulfill the prophecy. He reasoned that it didn't matter how it was untied, so he drew his sword and cut the knot in half, which untied the cart from the post. As time would tell, the prophecy came true. Alexander took his army deep into Persia and defeated the Persians in epic battles such as the Battle of Issus, where King Darius personally led his troops. Alexander then took his armies to the coastal lands of Phoenicia. There, the cities of Sidon and Baalbek surrendered, but the city of Tyre would not. Tyre was an island at the time, so it was difficult for Alexander to get his army into the city. To solve the problem, his army built a causeway, or a land bridge, to the island to lay siege. This causeway, over time, has grown from deposits, so today, Tyre is no longer an island but part of the mainland. The siege worked, and the city of Tyre fell to the Hellenic army. The citizens of Tyre were ruthlessly slaughtered, and the survivors were sold into slavery. Alexander then went south and conquered the land in Egypt. He crowned himself pharaoh and founded the great city of Alexandria, which still stands today. Alexandria became the greatest city in the world at one point after Alexander's death. It had a tall, beautiful lighthouse called the Pharos that was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Now that Egypt and Asia Minor were conquered, the Persians didn't have any seaports in the Mediterranean to launch their warships. The Persians could not use their navy to attack the Greeks. This made it possible for Alexander to move into the heart of Persia to the cities of Babylon and Susa. In the famous Battle of Gaugamela, Alexander defeated an enormous Persian force that outnumbered his own, and Darius III, leader of Persia, fled the battle when he realized he was defeated. This led to the ultimate defeat of the Persians, and Alexander became the ruler and emperor of Persia. But Alexander was not done. He continued to take his army east and defeated the Scythians, who lived in the area of modern Afghanistan. During his conquest, he met a princess named Roxana. She was not Greek or Macedonian. She was the princess of Bactria, an Asian land that he had conquered. It is said that he fell in love with her at first sight. Alexander's advisors wanted him to marry a Macedonian or Greek woman, but instead he chose Roxana, whom he loved. By marrying her, he gained the loyalty of her people and their army, which helped his military conquest as it continued east into India. Things were really hard for Alexander's army in India. Many of his soldiers died in the tough battles. The enemy armies even used elephants as cavalry against Alexander's horses. Alexander's beloved horse, Bucephalus, is said to have died in the battle here. Even though they were still winning the battles, Alexander's soldiers were starting to get weary of war. They had been at war for 11 long years. Alexander wanted to continue east past the Ganges River. His troops mutinied and refused to go any further. He relented and sent some of his troops back to Susa by boat, and the rest he marched back through the desert where many more of them died. When Alexander made it back to Susa, he declared himself the king of all Asia. He had accomplished the impossible. He had fulfilled his father's dream of defeating the Persian Empire once and for all. The conquest of Alexander changed the history and the culture of the world forever. The army of Macedon brought Greek culture to places they conquered. Many of the conquered nations adopted parts of Greek culture, language, and religion into their own cultural identity. This is called Hellenization. The same year that he returned to Susa, his best friend, Hephaestion, died, and Alexander was really upset about it. He was inconsolable. Hephaestion had been Alexander's second in command, a great military leader and diplomat, who was always very loyal to Alexander. Alexander was very sad about this, and really never recovered from his loss. The next year, Alexander mysteriously fell ill in Babylon. He had a very high fever for several days and became so sick that he couldn't speak. Shortly thereafter, in the summer of 323 BCE, he died. Some say it was a bacterial illness like meningitis. Others say it could have been malaria. Some even think he was poisoned by his enemies. We don't know for sure. His body was put in a glass coffin, taken to Egypt, and buried at Alexandria. He was only 32 years old. Even though his life was relatively short by today's standards, Alexander accomplished an incredible amount. He truly changed the course of history. We hope you enjoyed this video on the life of Alexander the Great. If you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us grow and keep making these fun learning videos. Thanks for all your support. See you next time!